Well, thank you, everyone. This morning we're going to see an excerpt from a play called Vang that is in progress. It's going to debut April 9th at the M Shop at Iowa State University. So we'll see the excerpt and then we'll have a chance to have a discussion with Dennis, my collaborator, and Matt Foss, my other collaborator, and Annie Feenstra, our wonderful actress. Enjoy.
Like Mary said, this is an excerpt from a play under construction. Now that may sound kind of strange. You may think people often write plays rather than constructing plays, but that the word is really apt. Plays are knit together, stories and actions and people that are often best when they're made in community, collaboratively, rather than writing in isolation, crafting impressive sentences. This collaboration that you've just seen a small portion of today began when Mary and Dennis began traveling around the state of Iowa, listening to the stories of people who come here from all around the world and how they're starting and making their lives work here. As Mary would interview them, listening to the stories they told about their experiences here, Dennis would chronicle those exchanges. They invited myself and one of my students, Annie Feenstra, to try to take those stories to beyond just a collection that would be on a website or a book into something else, something live, something where their collaboration can become into a collaboration like this, where we would share the story through the theater. So please enjoy this short section from Vang.
Dennis and I have fought for months to get a member of the Hmong community to speak with us. They've been kind, but cautious. One family, the Vangs,
It means garden in Hmong.
own a small tailor shop in Des Moines that doubles as their home, their greenhouse, the de facto cultural center for the Hmong community, a relief agency even for the entire state. They're even sending relief efforts back to Thailand. So this small shop is something more than just for clothes or mending. You ready?
I think so. There's a flurry of activity as we enter the shop. Tua and his wife, A, are holding court. They're serving customers, filling orders, helping newcomers to the city. Tua and A moved to Des Moines in winter of 1980. February?
We thought that every tree dead. Somebody told us that's snow. It's so pretty.
Can you tell me about these plants that are in the window all around your shop here?
We do farming as a hobby. The shop is like our greenhouse. We like to watch our vegetables grow. We work in the shop, and then on Saturday mornings we close and we go out to our garden. 3 acres. Radishes, green lettuce, cabbage, peppers, lots of herbs, traditional Hmong foods. It's much better than Laos. We still use the hoe to weed the garden, but we have a small rototiller machine and a tractor. You don't have to kill all your back that way. It isn't hard to adapt to farming here in the States. We're not lazy. You want to learn how to grow something? Go on the internet. Internet show you every detail. We went to ESL class, English, for 9 months when we first arrived. And then Tua, my husband, started job training.
In a tumble body shop at the community college.
Very, very hard. My English was very poor. Everything new. But Americans were really nice. One of my ESL teachers would help us.
After I graduated, I go to work at car company, a painter, but then I think it's too much smell, so I decide to go back to being a tailor.
They say tailor. Tailor, not a man job, woman job. But we save a bit of money. Buy a machine, buy another machine.
Then I open up my shop here.
My husband worked as a tailor in Thailand, in the camp we made it to.
We met in Laos, but we lived in different villages.
But we knew each other in Laos. Like Thanksgiving here. We celebrate New Year, harvest, Thanksgiving in Laos. We don't really care what day it is. We just know it comes. Harvest is over and that's it. Happy New Year.
And that is the time that you choose the girl or boy that you want.
It's a big celebration. very happy time. You go into the ball toss. It's a Hmong tradition. You wear a pretty dress and pretty clothes, and if you drop the ball, you give a piece of your clothing to the boy.
Yeah, but just for fun.
Or the girl gives him a piece of fabric. By that time, so many teenagers getting married.
After the Vietnam War, we were almost 18. We were not keeping track of our ages then. And the Americans tell us to get out, that the communists think that we are Americans because we work for Americans, we help them. So communists say we are American, not Hmong.
We were just married, and we were told all of a sudden to get out and flee and hide in the jungle. So
We did.
we carried kids on our backs, had to drug some of the kids with opium so they didn't make noise. Some of them died from the opium.
We saw big tigers, elephants, animals, wild animals in the jungle. I do not know if we were more afraid of animals or communists.
They closed every road, shot everyone they saw trying to leave. Those who left first made trails, but then the communists would know about the trails and they put mines and grenades everywhere. You'd see some killed everywhere.
My brothers and I would go into the jungle every day to search for food. One day, we found a campfire. The ashes were still warm, and near it, there was a dead monkey, its rotten carcass full of larvae. Its hair was falling out.
The legs were still good. Everyone was hungry.
One day I woke up early to look for food, like usual, and I heard gunfire, and my mother shouted, "Run! Communist soldiers, run, go!" So I did. Bullets flying past. I ran so fast I do not know how many were killed or wounded.
We were separated from our family for 14 days. One night we heard a strange sound, very chilling and frightening. It scared us very much. And my sister said to me, "This is the sound of sadness. This sound is the void of the God of the mountain and the land to let us know that our loved ones all are dead."
We found my parents. My mother was wounded very badly. She had been shot by the soldiers. So I went to find some food. I found these nuts, and I asked my mother if she thought they were edible, and she said, "Give them to me first. We'll see if they're poison." Mom was fine. So I go to find more nuts, and then my sister came running, and she stopped me. "Don't stop, the poison." And she puts her finger in her mouth to vomit, and so I do. But my mother and brothers and sister and niece, they couldn't, didn't. My dad says my sister and I were unconscious for many days. He was the only one that did not eat the nuts. My mom, 2 brothers, sister, granddaughter, and a small child that lived with us, they died. 6 people. And then I lost another brother later from a tree mushroom. He ate, he cried, and died right away, so 7. We could only cover them with leaves.
We crossed the Mekong River during the night. Those of us who could swim, swam. Others cut big branches and bound them together. And the soldiers were shooting at us. More died there.
We were in Thailand for 2 years, and then we came to America for our freedom.
And now we go out into the garden to relax our minds.
We are so excited for spring. We cannot wait to plant.
Plant everything.
It makes us so happy to plant. We go out and you feel so good. Plant makes you feel so good. It grows good and you feel good. It makes you look. It makes you think about how happy you are. Plant grow good, you that makes your mind feel so good. This is a snippet from a handful of stories that will be just like this. Annie and I will play Dennis and Mary, and then slide in and finding a way to share the stories of people working in packing plants or dairies or farms, just like the Vangs out here in Des Moines around our state. So if you have any questions, we'd love to
So altogether we have 4 couples, and you just saw the excerpt from the Hmong couple. We also worked with Mexicans in Marshalltown, Sudanese in Ames, and Dutch in Brooklyn. And they all have, very, very, very different stories to tell from different angles. Some are refugees, some came from very war-torn countries, brought here by the UN. In contrast, the Dutch were invited here by the state of Iowa. So we have an array of people and experiences, and you'll see all 4 of those couples in a month at the M Shop in Iowa State. So Dennis is a Pulitzer Prize-winning photographer, and he and I did all the footwork on this. And to get 4 couples, I had to interview probably, I don't know, 15 or 20 couples to sit that down. And I remember one day Dennis and I were running around Des Moines. We were trying to get some. This is a play about farming, in addition to being a play about international people coming to Iowa. So we were trying to find some Bosnian farmers, which we never did, but we had every Bosnian bar in Des Moines. So we've been at this for about 3 years, and we have a little grant from Iowa State for the Center for Excellence in Arts and Humanities. And then the great Matt Foss came to campus, and he has just made the theater department sing. And last year he won 5 Kennedy Center Awards, and that's like 5 Academy Awards. I mean, you just don't get any better than that. So he's really, really been a great addition to our team here. And then where did Annie go?
She had to run the class.
Oh, she had to run the class. Of course. Forget that. I told her she should sign up for billiards for next year because we're going to keep her so busy. She has to have a class that she can skip. So that's our team, and we love to get your feedback, reactions, questions that you have on this project called Vang.
Is it going to be shown anywhere in Des Moines?
Well, that's what we're hoping, that after we do the initial performance, that we can then get a series of shows in Des Moines and throughout the state. We've got John Busby helping us brainstorm some ideas to get quite a few performances in Des Moines. And then we'd also like to tour the show internationally. And Dennis has already got us some bookings in Italy and in Poland, and I'm working on one in Ireland. And then we came up with this idea, since we have the Dutch couple that part of the show actually had a sizable farm in Holland, and it was reclaimed as a wetland. So the country bought it from them. So they had the capital then to come to Iowa and start their own farm. So we'd like to go to the Netherlands with the show too.
How many performances will there be in Ames? Is it just the one night?
Just one night, and then we want to start touring.
April 9th?
April 9th.
At the
At the ocean. That'll be 8 o'clock.
Approximately what would the running time be?
It'll be about an hour.
About an hour.
Yeah.
And for those of you who don't know, the Memorial
Union, yeah, right.
Memorial Union, that's where the M shop is.
Yeah. And let me explain the parking there because it's a little bit of a maze. Yeah, if you come in on Lincoln Way, there's a ramp right next to the Memorial Union, and that's where you want to park in that ramp. And then there's an elevator and so forth that you can take down to the ground floor, and then there'll be signs to the main shop. It's a little confusing, but I'll give you my cell phone number.
So what was the inspiration for creating this piece, and what was the experience like interviewing? Because I got teary just in the first couple of minutes hearing these stories.
Yeah.
And I think that would just be really hard.
It was tough, yeah. I did another show, the book back there is Farmscape, and I wrote a play with my students at Iowa State. It's a verbatim play, and we interviewed people in the changing farmscape all over the state. And we did it as a class exercise, and that was 4 years ago, and it's still on tour. It went all around Iowa. It started moving around the Midwest. Now it's going to the South and to New York next December. And so that was a really interesting experience. And as my students say, it's the longest class they've ever taken. But we did it as a grassroots sort of community play show. And so I would go into a college, university, towns, a church, and people would take the part, and we did it as Readers Theater, so it was fairly easy to do and get up on its feet in a week. And it just kept, it just kept going. It was great. Somebody would be in the audience and say, "Oh, we need to do this. We need to do this one." So it's still touring, and we published it as a book and a collection of essays from people responding to the play. And I was in the midst of that, and it was actually Ricky Saltzman, who was the state folklorist, saw the show, and she, and this happens, if you're a writer, this happens to you all the time. Like, oh, you know what you really need to do? That was great, but what you really need to do is X, and as a writer, you kind of go like, oh, but once in a while, you don't want to tune it out. And so Ricky came up to me and she said, Farmscape, what you really need to do is get out and document the recent immigrant farmers that are out there. And I did not tune that suggestion out. I thought, that's really great. That's a really great idea. So we were fortunate, Dennis and I were fortunate enough. Well, Dennis, first of all, I worked in Farmscape, and then all of a sudden he comes to campus and he walks into my office and said, since I'm here, he's very humble, and I'm like, yeah, with your 2 Pulitzer Prizes. And he said, since I'm here, I'd like to document sustainable agriculture. I thought, where is this person dropped out of the heavens? So we were fortunate to get a little grant from Iowa State and get to work on it. And Ricky actually was one of the people that helped us enter into the Hmong community, and then had a whole series of people that were translators, and they were great because they provided entry into various communities. And it's tough. I've done a lot of interviewing in my life for writing projects, but there were several degrees of difficulty here. One was language, although most of these people will tell you English is not good, but it really is good. But then another was the cultural difference and trying to explain, it's hard to explain to anybody, well, we're going to write a play, we're going to take your photograph, and then we're going to tour it around the state. Like, what are you doing? So to gain their trust and to try to explain what the project was about. And And then the interviewees are incredibly stressed and have, harrowing stories to tell, most of them. And even if they aren't refugees, they struggled and had adjustment problems, and with the Vangs here, just doing this interview, I must have gone maybe 10 times to interview them. You're seeing this snippet here, but I got so far as a little bit about the monkey, when they had to eat the monkey, and Tua just broke down and started to sob and said, I can't go any further. And so I actually had to go to his sister, who was in the jungle with him, and get her interviewed, which was in Hmong, and then get the translator to translate that. And then I had, for the play, then I had to splice that together. So you see there's an enormous amount of research and work that went into what you saw in 10 minutes this morning. And then multiply that by 4. So it was really one of the most fascinating, rewarding things I've done so far in my writing career.
What was the process, or how did you decide to have 2 actors play all of the roles, and why?
Well, Matt and I put our heads together, and in theater, you always have to think of, crudely enough, you have to think about money. And the more actors you have, the more money you have to divide up, right? And it would have been fun to have 8 actors, but if you're thinking about this is going to tour, then you have to coordinate 8 different people's schedules and so forth, and then you have to pay them. It would be the money. So, that's
Creatively,
it's really cool.
It's a nice opportunity in a way. Like I don't have any money, so I have to find out ways to tell stories anyway. So I've been doing like Shakespeare behind the Burger King in Ames and things like that. But in this case, with seeing, rather than using 2 people as an obstacle, as an opportunity, we have a spectrum of people. With 2 actors, we can hopefully find a way to do that respectfully as we come into contact with the other in a really nice way. We see it in the narrative of what Dennis and Mary are learning. So we can stay on that side of the equation. I think Dennis and Mary's experience learning from these people is probably the best action of the story. So that made also the best sense dramaturgically. Or it was the best place to seek the curiosity of the play. Or maybe more fun for the audience to follow those journeys.
And what an opportunity for an actor to play in one show 4 different people, 4 different countries. Dennis, you want to talk about your experience with this? Because Dennis went out to photograph. I would do the interviews. Dennis would come sometimes with me to do the interviews, and then he would go off and photograph them without me. Because he went out to as you see with the Vangs, he went out when they were planting and at different opportunities than I had them usually sitting down in their tailor shop.
I think, I usually went with Mary the first time, sometimes just a couple of visits, and then I would just start going out on my own because I'd be there at 7 o'clock in the morning when they're working in the garden, or in the evening after the end of the day. And for me, life is important. And so I was available. Summers were best. Unfortunately, most gardening takes place in the summer. So I could just hop in my car and be someplace in an hour. Brooklyn, Iowa's a little bit further, a little more difficult. But it gave me, I think, because I would show up so many times, the people reacted to us differently. Because Mary would have to contact them again and maybe get them to flesh out this bit a little bit more or whatever. But they'd see me maybe 10, 12 times in the course of 2 months. I think Tua mentioned that, you guys are serious.
Yeah, that's right. But, as I said in the very beginning, the whole situation was creating trust. And then when we kept coming back, I said, oh, you're serious? And then they're like, you haven't finished that project yet? and then we did sort of fun things. We went to church with some of these people along New Year, and at one event, one of the women in the church pulled me aside and she said, you get that movie done, we make DVD, everybody buy. So there's a lot of pressure on Dennis. Make that movie.
I think you talked about earlier, but I wasn't really clear on it. Is the overlying theme for all the 4 stories just immigration, or is there that agriculture?
Yeah, it's recent immigrant farmers, and so
Like those guys are tailors, but they're
also farmers,
Okay.
right? And so basically, with each of these couples, they came here and they had all been farmers. So, for example, the Sudanese couple, Joseph had, grown up in southern Sudan and was had his cattle out grazing, and he said the distance would be from here to Omaha, that they would take them out grazing and then slowly move back for the winter. And so they had all grown up with farming and then come here and, except for the Dutch, they came here expressly to farm. They came here or relocated and then ended up in meatpacking plants, or you heard today in auto repair shops, and underneath it, they wanted to go back to farming. So they all had a story about how they returned to that and how they tried to work it out. So the Hmong are fascinating because what they're doing now, there's a buzzword for it, which is urban agriculture, but they've been doing it since 1980. And so, I think there are 8 families that come to the Des Moines Farmers Market, and they all basically plowed up their backyards. And a lot of them are joining yards, and so they have their own little center there. And the Vangs have a little tiny greenhouse in the back of their tailor shop. And then they started reclaiming empty lots in Des Moines. And they're brilliantly clever, resourceful, interesting people. One of the families I interviewed that didn't get into the play has 20 acres of vegetables in Altoona. And I said, well, how did it work out that you were able to buy that land? And they said, well, we came here and they put us in an apartment complex. And they said, it's filthy. So we volunteered to clean the apartment complex, and then we get paid to clean the apartment complex. And then we buy the apartment complex. And then we rent to other Hmong who live in apartment complex. And then we sell apartment complex, and we buy farm. So, they're really entrepreneurs and have just done amazingly well for especially for what they've been through. Yeah, so it's a agricultural play about immigrants and their process. It blends those 2 issues together.
Yeah, I think what was interesting is I was working on the immigrant project, and then met Mary and said, I really would like to do sustainable ag. And then somebody just put this idea in your mind.
Right.
And so everything came together. So I'd already been doing some immigrant stuff, and I knew Joseph, the Sudanese, and been doing interviews with him.
And then you had interviewed Claudia.
Yeah.
And she became my translator and my entree into the Mexican community in Marshalltown. So that's why it kind of evolved like that. It was great.
It was pretty organic.
Yeah. And then we're trying to find somebody from each continent. And I kept saying, we don't have anybody from Europe. And then in 2008, there was I think 15 families from the Netherlands that were invited to Iowa, and they certainly had their own struggles. So even though their circumstances were completely different. So I thought that would be interesting, kind of as a contrast to provide for the play.
Between the different cultures and different nationalities, did you notice much difference as far as gaining their trust? Because different nationalities I've dealt with refugees, some of them are very difficult because they thought me as a volunteer at the airport, I worked for the government and I was, I was watching them as part of the program, and it took a while.
Right.
And others were just open-hearted, So
I think the Mexicans are the easiest for me to gain entree to, although they were confused exactly what I was doing to, as I say, it's hard to explain this, and the Hmong were the hardest. And again, what their history would be in terms of trust, right there would be an issue. And so it definitely took months. And, it took probably the whole first year before they really decided that we were legit, that would be okay to buy the movie. So.
Is that true for you too, Dennis?
Yeah, the Mexicans that we worked with, I think, were really easy because I was working on a project in Marshalltown, and I had a couple graduate students who were actually exchange students from Mexico. And so we spent a lot of time in Marshalltown, and I started to get to know a lot of people. I was like the only white guy that always went to a couple of these different businesses, and everybody thought, but then they thought I was Mexican because I always had these young Mexican people. You're the father, but because of that, I knew a lot of people in Marshalltown, and the translator that we used, Claudio, was a friend, and so that was really easy. The Hmong took the most time.
Yeah.
But I think being out there in the garden with them in the mornings changed things. And then I would come down again on Saturday to go to the farmer's market and see them there and photograph and buy some stuff. And then eventually Sudanese was...
We had you worked with Joseph.
Yeah, and that wasn't too difficult. Although he has a harrowing story.
Yeah.
And I remember interviewing him, and one day, because we've been interviewing at different places, I was able to arrange a studio at the School of Journalism. It's like this little closet that's like a cocoon. And that day, he just started telling me stories that it was hard not to cry. And then after it was all over, he said, I'm surprised I told you this stuff because I've never told anybody this. And I don't know if it was just because, that was maybe the 5th or 6th time we met. And I also think physically being in that small little room with padded walls, acoustic tiles made a difference. It felt like a safe space. And after that, it was really easy. I'd go to his apartment, photos of him and his kid playing football. Soccer actually.
I tried to come at it with remembering my own experience. I've also been interviewed a lot of times, and about my own traumas. And when somebody would come at me and shove a microphone to my face and say, "Talk about your trauma," and you just automatically back away. And I try to remember some of the things that really good reporters did with me, because I've toured all around the United States with my books, and it engaged me, on radio, TV, the really, really good interviewers that you can learn a lot from. Really, really great. I teach my students this too. You can have a million questions lined up. You can do all those things. You can do all your groundwork, but if you don't establish a good rapport, you're going to have a miserable interview. And so we work on rapport a lot. And there's something I think that I have as an advantage, because I've come into lots of different communities, and that is I walk in there as a single woman. It's really interesting, and it's less. I think it's just less threatening, And I don't know if you've ever traveled as a single woman. It's a very interesting experience. Is people, you know, it's sort of patronizing, but use it because they sort of like protect you and take care of you and invite you to dinner and things like that. So something to think about.
What was the criteria you used to get down to these 4 stories?
The criteria was really the drama of it. Did they have a great story, and could we dramatize it on the stage? There's lots of other, you know, the interviews we didn't use. They had their stories too, but either they were too fragmented, some of them were just too fragmented to come together, or you know, again, it was for some people it was just like completely a dead end to try to get beyond the PTSD of the situation.
Some of the stories Mary handed are so complete. So they're already told.
No.
There's no need to tell them in a different way. There's no room for the collaborative event, like the next collaboration, either ours or yours, listening to it, if that makes sense. So some were too fragmented, and some were already complete. And so it did seem like they needed to be told.
And then, yeah, there was actually one interview that it wasn't based around trauma. It was just I pulled it because the interviewee was just basically emailing me all the time. What are you doing with my interview? Blah, 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 blah. And I said, finally, I said, okay, what are your concerns here? And he said, you know, I'm a scientist, and I've just never shared my emotions with anybody, and I'm really worried about that. And it got to the point where I decided, okay, it's great material, but let's just not use it. And so, you know, I tried to accommodate the interviewees too. You know, it's a delicate situation. The last thing you want is for somebody to feel ripped off. Would you want them to feel proud of, you know, what they have to say and what they've done with their lives? And that's what we're trying to present here.
Did Mr. Foss, did you meet with the families to kind of create your characters, or is this all from you?
I haven't got to yet.
Okay.
I got to listen to a lot of the tapes. I was brought in a little later because I just showed up kind of here back in Iowa. I'm from Iowa, and I grew up in agriculture. But yeah, I got to listen to some of the tapes, and it's a really difficult thing to do that we're still trying to figure out how to transition from photographer and poet into these people. And so we use the tapes and the syntax rather than create some type of voice
Or accent.
We use the syntax or the shape of the words. It's interesting, the syntax of it. We follow that. It creates, it kind of sounds like a voice, but it's pretty much Annie and I of just following the transcripts to try to find a respectful way. So in a way, I'm kind of looking on the outside, and the writing process for Dennis and Mary's, they hand me stacks of things, and then I say, is this your play? It's really humbling and really fun. Is this your play? And sometimes Mary's like, yeah, it's it. Sometimes she's like, we probably need this. But we're starting to get fairly good at it.
Okay.
But I'm going to invite all the real interviewees to the opening in April. So I think that hopefully I get them all there and people can meet them. That'll be fun. Yeah, Judy?
Did Dennis, or did it, your own experience in agriculture, living on a farm-like situation and growing some of your own, and how did that inform this?
Oh, it really did. How did this experience inform my own agriculture? Actually, Dennis and I are both really avid gardeners and grow a lot of our own food, and Matt's background is in agriculture too, so that's something that we're all grounded in. And just for me, seeing people making these beautiful gardens that you saw here out of nothing, out of completely you know, makeshift and frugal means to me really brought it home that you don't need to buy into, you know, the commercialism, especially in gardening. I can't believe it. I was out of town for a month, just got back from Ireland, and I came home, and my house sitter said, I brought in your mail. And I'm like, yeah, and like this huge stack of gardening magazines. It's all these glitzy, you know, little boots and gloves, and, you know, $75 for a pruner and all that kind of thing. And I just sat there and I went, oh man, you know, from what the people I've been working with, they would just laugh at this. Yeah, but as I told you before the show, you know, whenever I have the least bit of like self-pity about anything anymore for myself, I think of these people and just say, you know, shape up, Swander. This is ridiculous. Look what these people are real survivors. I mean, they've really come through. I think probably some of the most harrowing experiences that any human being could. And so that's what I love about working with international people or traveling or doing any kind of project like this, is that it opens your own perspective.